Hello, welcome to ITV News Central. On tonight's programme, a care home manager in Sutton Coldfield says she's been forced to sack staff members over the no jab, no job policy now in force.
They were people that were doing 4, 5, 6 shifts, people that worked 24 hours a day during the pandemic. They're actually moved in. A few of them moved in.
The Poppy Peace Garden created by school children in Coventry for Armistice Day.
They fought so we could have peace further on.
Also tonight, the Solihull motorcycle firm revving up for more global sales in their new multi-million pound base.
And the topsy-turvy weather conditions continue for now. So still dribs and drabs of dampness, but at least drying for the weekend. I'll have the details.
Good evening. A care home manager in Birmingham has given a tearful interview about what it's like working in the sector. Hundreds of health workers across the Midlands lost their jobs today after new rules about COVID vaccinations came into force. As
a result, those who refused to get the jab were sacked, leaving some care home bosses desperately short-staffed. We've been speaking to the manager of Boldmere Court, a care home in Sutton Coldfield, who says her remaining staff are at breaking point, and she herself is heartbroken at having to sack or suspend loyal workers.
I've had to sack 6 people and I've had to suspend a further 6, so that's 12 people in all yesterday, which means that those shifts, which could be 3 or 4 shifts in a week, have got to be covered. And for the first time, we are having to use agency to cover them, or myself and the deputies stepping in. People are doing extra shifts. We're tired. We've gone through a pandemic. We're not having holidays. We're not having days off. We're just worn out, and Boris is not helping us with this. Having the double jab doesn't stop you from getting COVID. It just helps your immune system. And it certainly doesn't stop you from passing it on. And I've got lots of proof of that, if he wants to see it. So where's your proof that this is going to help? You can't teach a carer. You can't. They have to have it in their heart. Because if it's not in your heart, you're not doing your job properly. And the ones I had to let go, it was in their heart. They cared. They were people that were doing 4, 5, 6 shifts, people that worked 24 hours a day during the pandemic. They're actually moved in. A few of them moved in, bags and all, and lived here to get the residents through the pandemic. This home is like a family. We're all very, very close to each other, and I've had to put people into possible poverty because I've had to take their jobs away from them. I know of one lady that spoke to me yesterday who says that, you know, they're not allowed benefits because they're making themselves voluntarily redundant. And as I said, she lost her partner last year. She's got 4 children. She's a single mum. How do you tell them kids that Christmas is cancelled yet again? They're little ones. They don't understand. They don't understand Boris has made a decision that's affected them. It's not right. What he's doing is not right.
Well, a very raw interview there, and Teresa Ingram-Gettin speaking very frankly about the situation at her care home in Sutton Coldfield. The Health Secretary and Bromsgrove MP Sajid Javid has pledged a big cash boost to the care sector to help retain and recruit staff.
We also want to make sure that it is the safest environment it can possibly be for people that are in their care, because whether it's in a care home or whether it's in a hospital bed, these are some of the most vulnerable people in our society, and they are particularly, can be hurt by exposure to COVID. It could be fatal. Now, we can't remove that risk of exposure completely, but we can reduce it, and that is why we've required people that are working with such vulnerable people to be vaccinated.
And you've been having your say on the plight of care workers caught in the no jab, no job situation on our social media pages. Matt Dudley says if you want to work with the vulnerable and the elderly, then you simply have to make sure you are protecting them.
Sarah Roberts says, in my opinion, if I had an elderly parent or grandparents in care and hospital, I'd prefer their caregiver to be double vaccinated.
But Tony Kitson from Wolverhampton says, I've been double jabbed and I wouldn't force others to get it. It's a personal choice. Thanks to everyone who's been in touch.
OK, let's get some other news this evening now. And a man who killed a pedestrian in Birmingham when he lost control of a speeding stolen car has been sentenced to 3 years and 8 months. CCTV caught the car on Great Bar Street in Digbeth, travelling at more than 50 miles an hour in a 20 zone in August. The Ford Focus was going so fast, all 4 wheels left the ground as it went over a bridge. It then careered onto the pavement, hitting Gulan Nabi, who was 61. He died at the scene. The car was extensively damaged in the collision, but driver Rehan Ahmed failed to stop. It was later abandoned by the 20-year-old who's from Birmingham. He was caught 12 hours later following a public appeal. He pleaded guilty to causing death by dangerous driving at Birmingham Crown Court.
People across the region have stood in silence today to mark Armistice Day.
Primary children in Coventry have created a peace garden and poppy display to honour those who fought and lost their lives in conflicts. And veterans remembered their fallen comrades at a service in Staffordshire, as Danny Crawshaw reports.
Hundreds, among them veterans, attended a service of remembrance at the National Memorial Arboretum.
I've had a wonderful time and I've met some nice people and I'm being treated just like a king. Beautiful.
Away from Staffordshire, Earlsdon Primary in Coventry has been doing its bit to remember with a peace garden and poppy display.
Colourful.
Yeah, it's really kind of bright and cheerful.
We just want to make people remember by putting up lots of poppies. So the white one is peace poppy. The purple one is animals. And then there's a black one which is African soldiers. They fought so we could have peace further on.
This is our peace garden. Welcome to our peace garden.
Thank you. Let's go through. And so tomorrow, Bryony, what is going to be happening here?
We're inviting some people to plant some poppy seeds just over there.
So members of the public, aren't you?
Yeah.
What do you think of the peace garden?
I think it's a nice place to come and relax.
So I don't know if you know, but last year your poppy display was tweeted and then Morgan Freeman, the Hollywood actor, liked it.
Oh yeah, Mum told me.
Do you know who Morgan Freeman is?
No, but I've heard her name before.
His.
His? Is it he?
Yeah. So this year, maybe it'll be liked by, another star. Who would you like it to be liked by?
Ryan Reynolds.
Hollywood stars aside, the children have also written peace poems.
Peace is a place where everyone is in harmony. All wars have ended. Countries and continents collaborate together, and everywhere there is justice.
The pupils here are determined to honour those who so bravely fought and died in military conflicts. Danny Crawshaw, ITV News.
I'll tell you what's great about that. I went to the local war memorial this morning at 11 o'clock and I did notice that I was the youngest person there by about 25, 30 years.
But they were so thoughtful at that early age.
Exactly.
So thoughtful and planned it all out and who they want to be remembered to.
That's what we need, the next generation. Well, you've been getting in touch with some of your Armistice Day tributes and photos across the region. At Worcester Cathedral, they added colour to their beautiful stained glass windows with poppies overlooking the courtyard.
And there was a small roadside display made with hundreds of red poppies in the village of Nosal in Staffordshire.
And this was captured by our team filming in Ironbridge in Shropshire earlier on today. Thank you very much for sending those in.
Wow. Norton Motorcycles is back in the West Midlands after more than 2 decades. A new factory has opened, which the company says will bring hundreds of jobs and turn out 8,000 hand-built motorbikes every year.
Well, the buyers have big plans for the British brand, starting with the new high-tech home in Solihull, not far from where their story began. Callum Watkinson reports.
more than 2 decades since Norton Motorcycles left the West Midlands, its road has led it home. One of Britain's oldest automotive brands has been based at Donington Park in Leicestershire since 2008. From now on, though, its machines will come roaring out of a factory in Solihull, 10 miles from where it built its first bike the year after Queen Victoria died.
It's great to have a good news story and to bring the brand back into the UK.
When Leicestershire-based businessman Stuart Garner bought the company from its American owners, hopes were high for a revival of the glory days when its riders would sometimes occupy the entire podium at the Isle of Man TT. But administrators were called in early 2020, and it looked as though Norton, at 12 decades old, might finally be running out of road. Indian motorcycle giant TVS, however, had other plans. They bought the firm in April that year, and in less than 18 months have given it a new home, new management, and an injection of purpose.
We have obviously with TVS an excellent shareholder in the background who is always long-term thinking, who is always investing with a long-term perspective. And this gives us opportunity to set up Norton proper this time.
The ethos here is to fuse Norton's rich history with a technologically advanced future. The facilities outshine anything that was available at Donington. Every machine is built by hand and every component is lab tested before it goes on a bike.
We're covering everything from product safety all the way through to the sort of the aesthetics, the finished article. So it's essential that the bike is the best it possibly can be, and so we control that through inspection and built-in processes.
Are you feeling sad about the news that Nortons are having to leave the Midlands?
Oh yes, very sad, because
Norton left its Bracebridge Street factory in Birmingham in 1962.
Bracebridge Street, and immediately they think of Norton.
Since then it has moved many times. London, Wolverhampton and Shenstone, just some of the places it has called home. Now, so close to where its tale began, it's a brand proud of its heritage but resolved not to be haunted by the ghosts of its past. It says the legends of the future are its business now. And with billionaire backers who seem to value its story, Norton today feels like it's 123 years young. Callum Watkinson, ITV News, Solihull.
New beginnings for a company with a very rich Midlands history and heritage. Now, the ITV Evening News is on after us, of course, with the details about what's coming up on their programme this evening. Here's Charlene.
The NHS is at breaking point, warn hospital bosses. Waiting times for ambulances when you get to A&E and for operations are at a record high. The Yorkshire cricket racism scandal. England captain Joe Root says it's fractured the game, and the nation falls silent to pay its respects on Armistice Day. Join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
As we emerge from one pandemic, this year marks 40 years since another began, and one for which there is still no vaccine or cure.
In the UK, it began with one man's mysterious death, the first reported case of AIDS. Until now, he's never been identified, but ITV's Tonight team has been able to trace him. Here's Lauren Hall with a look ahead to tonight's programme, which tells his story.
His name was John Eadie, and it's believed he was the first person to die from AIDS here in the UK. For 40 years, his name has been a mystery, known only as Patient Zero or the Brompton patient, with just a few lines about his death in a medical journal. The Tonight team has now been able to identify him, and once they'd found his name, they could find his friends.
He was a very charming man, he was always very friendly.
Yes, he did have a rather large nose, didn't he?
He was camp, yes, definitely. He very quickly deteriorated and then ended up in hospital, and I remember the doctor sort of saying, oh, he's not going to survive.
I think it's nice that we know, and I think it's quite fitting that John can be remembered.
Death is the common denominator. So far, no one has ever survived.
This year marks 4 decades since the beginning of the AIDS epidemic, which went on to kill 15,000 people in the UK and millions more around the world.
This man is luckier than many. His lover will nurse him until he dies.
We had nothing for the underlying disease, and indeed we still didn't know what the disease was. We had no idea. The power of this virus to kill people without interventions is quite extraordinary.
In those early years, it prompted a wave of prejudice. It was 15 years before effective treatment. Now, drugs can stop you catching the virus and give you a normal life expectancy if you do. But it came too late for so many.
How many people do you think you lost to HIV/AIDS?
I started to write down guys' names in front of my Bible. I remember getting to 50. They were all so young. They were all boys.
Stigma meant many were deliberately forgotten. But 40 years on, that first patient, John Eadie, will now be remembered. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
The Mayor of the West Midlands has been telling world leaders how our region can lead the way in investing in cleaner, greener transport to help tackle climate change.
Well, let's cross live to our environment correspondent Charlotte Cross at the penultimate day of the COP26 conference in Glasgow. Good evening to you, Charlotte. What have you been hearing about today?
Good evening. Yes, well, today was all about how towns, cities and regions can play a part in tackling climate change. And as you say, amongst those speaking was West Midlands Mayor Andy Street. Now, he actually arrived yesterday to look at some of the new technology being pioneered by the West Midlands to make train travel greener with hydrogen and battery power. He said he wants the West Midlands to lead the way.
About a third of our emissions come from transport, so if we can green that public transport by investing in new facilities and making sure they are sustainable, so hydrogen buses, electric trains, all of that. The next thing is about what ideas can we contribute in our industry. And actually we saw one of those yesterday, us manufacturing trains of the future, us thinking about how we will be the centre of electric vehicles of the future as well. So it's about using our engineering skills there.
Well, as well as transport, we've been hearing how homes and businesses can be built and changed retrospectively to become greener as well. Tanya Sanger has been to meet one pub in Staffordshire where the owners say they're determined to shrink their carbon footprint.
Yes, so I'm at the Black Lion pub in Staffordshire, where the owners here have been making changes to help the environment. They've even managed to save 5 tonnes of carbon dioxide by installing a new water and heating system. But we're going to come on to more about what they've done. But first I'm with Hannah now, the pub landlady. What made you decide to even make any of these changes?
I've always really cared about our impact on the environment and being surrounded by such beautiful landscapes. And since becoming a parent to our little boy Frankie, it's made us really interested and concerned about the future that we're going to leave for him. So we're trying to make changes now to make things better for the next generation.
Thank you, Hannah. And this pub, along with other businesses, have been working with local councils to actually get the grants to put these changes in place. So I'm with Councillor Philip White now. So how do you actually help businesses who want to be more green?
So we, a while ago, set up the Staffordshire Business Environment Network to help family businesses like Hannah's, but also much larger businesses in Staffordshire to help make their businesses more environmentally friendly and more successful. And it's really great to see what Hannah's done with the advice that we were able to provide.
Thank you. And now we're moving into the kitchen, which is probably the most busiest room of the evening. But it's not as hot and stuffy as you'd expect because they've completely removed their gas cookers and replaced them with electric ones. And it's not only how they're cooking, it's actually what they're putting in the ingredients to help the environment. So Matt, you're the owner and the chef. What differences are you making to your actual produce?
So we use a lot of our own homegrown organic vegetables and salads, which we just grow here at the pub. We compost all of our cooked and uncooked food waste. We try to always provide 2 or 3 vegetarian and really exciting vegan options so that if people want to eat plant-based, they can. And all of our meat and the dairy all comes from just a few farms around the pub, so really low food miles.
Great, thank you. And this family-run business is actually the only pub in the village, so of a village of only 200 people. So they're showing how other businesses can actually make changes towards a greener future.
Charlotte, it's the final day of this groundbreaking conference tomorrow. What can we expect?
Well, there is still an awful lot to be done. The draft Glasgow Agreement was released yesterday. That's still being negotiated and the final wording still needs to be signed off. And of course, we know that many of our viewers will have an awful lot of questions about what's been going on over the course of the past 2 weeks. So this evening, after our programme, we'll be going for a live Q&A online. David Woods can tell us more.
Join me straight after tonight's programme on our website and right across our social media channels as we'll be coming live from COP on the eve of what's meant to be the final day of this conference. We'll be putting your questions to experts up here, both political and scientific, and ask whether negotiations will actually come to a substantial agreement and whether they will change the course and start combating climate change. So get your questions in and join me online at 6:35.
Well, as we've said, tomorrow will be the final day of negotiations and hopefully we will get a deal. So all eyes will be back on the world stage and the world leaders gathering here to see whether that deal can become a reality.
Thank you, Charlotte.
I was going to ask Charlotte for the Rangers fans' reactions to Steven Gerrard joining Villa, but I won't do that. But I will. A couple here. This one's coming from Corbin O'Brien. He says he's a born winner. Steven Gerrard this year is in English football great. I'm really excited to see what he can bring to our club. Sensible appointment, in my opinion. This one, though, from Craig Barnes, who says, strange move. Yes, Villa are a big-ish club, his words, but realistically, they will never be top 4. At least at Rangers, he had silverware almost guaranteed.
He's certainly going to be watched over the next few weeks, isn't he? See what he comes up with. Well, we now have time for our weather forecast tonight. Helen Plint.
Making the most of it, whatever the weather. Octopus Energy sponsors ITV Central Weather.
Hello there, a very good evening to you. Well, almost the full spectrum of weather coming our way over the next few days, but the one constant is the mild temperatures. For now, at least, they'll last until the early stages of next week. But even though we've got lots of cloud, there'll even be bright spells in there, some sunshine to be had between the damp, windy weather, although all in all, a much drier weekend coming our way. Although at the moment, this area of low pressure pushing west to east further north and dragging in its fronts, as you can see behind it. The tightly packed ice bars, of course, indicating the gusty conditions over the next day or two, but that high pressure then extending as we approach Saturday, all of course having a stabilising effect on our weather. Out there at the moment, well, any cloud fizzling away quite quickly this evening, so a nosedive in our temperatures. It'll feel quite chilly at first with an early minimum, but then into the early hours, the cloud rolls in from the west. It's going to be quite murky out there, and you can see already the rain affecting western areas. So by the time we're up and about, comfortably into double figures for lots of us, but really quite a gusty story and not too pleasant really to start Friday morning. All the while though, you can see there's the chance of the odd chink of brightness, some sunshine to come here and there, but we have got these fronts dragging in extra cloud, outbreaks of rain, very well scattered, so really tricky to pin down exactly where and when they'll be, but one or two could be on the heavy side too. Add in that brisk breeze, and although on the face of it temperatures look about where they were today, 13, 14 degrees, they'll feel down just a notch, of course, with those gusty conditions. Through Saturday and Sunday, a good deal of cloud hanging around. It's only very slowly you can start to see our temperatures tail off, so dry with a little bit of brightness at times.
Octopus Energy sponsors ITV Central Weather.
And on Armistice Day, we'll leave you tonight with live pictures from the Hall of Memory in Birmingham.
It's opened in 1925. It's dedicated to the 12,300 people from the city who died in the Great War. Since then, it's grown to include the names of those who lost their lives in the Second World War and those in active service since 1945. From all of us here at ITV News Central, thanks for watching. The ITV Evening News is next. Bye for now.